Good day, well, friends. Welcome to another day of Testimony Tuesday here on the Wellness Social Worker Podcast, Untangled. I am your host, the Wellness Social Worker, Rolanda Brown Dennis, and with me today I have my beautiful co host.
Hi everyone, it's the Agent of Change, Honey Roan.
And our guest today is the beautiful, the magnificent Miss Nicole Everett. Thank you, ma'am, for coming today. I really, really, really appreciate you holding space for us and being willing to just tell us about your journey, your avenue of wellness, and all the great things that you do in the community. You are a huge advocate for all, and I'm just really excited to dive in to our conversation today.
Well, thank you, Miss Rolanda, for having me. I feel like one good guest for the podcast deserves another. You were guest on my show, and I'm truly grateful for that. And we'll definitely have to have you come back. But it is an honor. I'm rarely on the other side of the microphone, if you will, in terms of the one who's being asked the questions. I'm normally asking questions, but I am super excited and delighted to be here with you today. So it is truly an honor. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you again. So tell us, who is Nicole Everett? Tell us about you and what you do.
So I am a daughter, sister, mother, friend, lover of the FAMU. I am a Miami girl. I love the beach. I am also a lover of people and community and mental health advocate. I actually worked in the mental health field from the standpoint of doing some behavioral health navigation.
Mm.
And I also serve with the Mental Health Council of the Big Bend, which allows me the opportunity to spread the word about the behavioral health services that are available in the Big Bend region. But I have a background in affordable housing. I did that for about 20 years and actually just started back in the field with our local Habitat affiliate here in Tallahassee, Big Bend Habitat for Humanity, where I serve as the Advancing Black Homeownership Program Manager. But also started my talk show back in 2016. And it's been a great ride.
Yeah.
Conversation with Nicole. We've done 12 recorded seasons from that time to this. Looking forward to year 7 and year 8. And I do the live shows on Mondays and Wednesdays with the focus on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities specifically. And I thoroughly enjoyed that work. I really do.
And you have some wonderful topics that we need to have like on the forefront, things that people may kind of like talk about amongst themselves, but it really needs to be brought to the light, in our communities, and don't make it so taboo, like, hey, let's dive into it and let's talk about it. What made you want to start Conversations with Nicole? What was the
So the start of Conversations with Nicole really came from me having lunch meetings at Nefertari's restaurant,
Mhm.
which is a Black-owned restaurant here in Tallahassee. And so I invited folks to have lunch with me weekly and would take pictures of me and my lunch guests and our food and post it on Facebook. And
Mhm.
so I did that every week from May to December. And mid-December, around holiday time, I was out and about, and people were really giving me grief when I saw them about when I was going to invite them to lunch. And so I told them, we have 52 weeks in 2016, and let's do it. And so mid-January 2016, a girlfriend of mine suggested that I start a blog, and I didn't know what she was talking about. And so she was like, "You're already doing it with these posts that you do." And so I met with my now business partner, but friend, Gerald Tooks, and was asking him to show me how to record a video on my phone to do a video blog show. And he said, no, if we're going to do, we're going to do it right. So he had a production company already with cameras and lights and mics and all of that sort of thing. And so we talked to the owners and the Nefertaris. They agreed to let us shoot the videos there. At the time, I was working for the state, but we would come in and shoot the videos on my lunch break. Gerald would get there about 30 minutes before me and my guests arrived to set up. We would get there, get mic'd up, order our food, have our conversation. And when our food came out, we would get ready to eat. And so that was 25 episodes, season 1,
Wow.
from March to August.
Wow.
Wow. So how did you I guess bring your niche to be about like mental health and wellness, and like how did you shape it to be like those topics?
So that kind of came about as a result of partnering with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital
Hmm.
and expressing to them that I was interested in mental health and wanted to be connected in a more meaningful way with any type of mental health initiative. And so they put me in touch with the Mental Health Council back in 2017. And so yeah, that's kind of where that journey began for me. Now, I will say that I do have a counselor's heart. I used to do financial counseling for the not the housing nonprofit that I worked for. And
Hmm.
so I definitely, have the capacity and the willingness to listen to people, hold space for them, and allow them to be heard and try to help them identify some solutions to whatever is going on with them. So I didn't, I probably did not recognize that at the time when I was doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
But in hindsight, I can definitely see where this is really, like my wheelhouse. It has been for quite some time.
Don't
So
you just love when it happens like so like naturally and like
Naturally,
organic,
yeah.
like it's like it's drawn to you?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that was happening when I was having those lunch meetings at Nefertari's
Hmm.
because, I would get into these conversations with my lunch dates and they would tell me things that either they don't normally talk about or
Right.
they hadn't told anybody or, there was just these magical moments that would happen during
Yeah,
the talk.
yeah,
And so that was another thing was I would love to capture this on camera, and so
yeah,
probably, one of the challenges, especially for the recorded shows, is getting people comfortable enough to not pay attention to the lights and the mics and people
mhm.
focus on me and our conversation. And a lot of times it does happen, but really even after we record, it's like the conversation after the conversation is so rich because then they have opened up and now they're thinking about other things that maybe they could have said. So yes, it is magical when that happens, when people kind of are free to express themselves and be
Yeah,
vulnerable, they're safe, and they can get maybe hear themselves out, but also maybe come up with some solutions to some issues that they hadn't been able to previously work out.
yeah. And it's such a huge release also because we get wrapped up in the hustle and bustle of our, days, working, family, and all of that. And the things that we experience begin to feel like isolated, sometimes we have that feeling of like it's only me that's, going through it, or no one can understand, or what have you. And so having someone like yourself that's willing to just hold space and say, hey, you can be yourself, you can be your authentic self, no judgment, like at all. I'm pretty sure it's so liberating. Like after the conclusion of those conversations, like they probably walk out and they're like, it could be storming outside and they're like, oh, life is so great. You know what I mean? So I think that is such a wonderful approach that you have, and allowing individuals to just naturally, be them. You know, I wish that everybody had that opportunity, to do that, because we know that mental health is very, very important. But we're still making moves to encourage community to go ahead on and seek that assistance, and be able to, have those conversations. So
Definitely.
what, in your experience, what do you believe um, we as community can do better to help embrace that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think, everybody doesn't have the capacity to hold space for folks. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's one thing that we need to recognize. And when we also need to recognize when we need somebody to hold space for us and
Yeah.
identifying who those people might be, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a certain level of self-awareness is very important, and empathy is also very important. And then, the whole you said this on my show, Go Heal, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
whole healing process, right? Which is it's taxing, right? It's work,
Hmm.
It is.
not
Yeah.
easy. And so to have to like explore your life and the things that were traumatic and to deal with those things is not an easy task. But
Yeah.
you know, if we want to be our best and highest selves, we must do that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very, very true. That's
Yeah.
very true. And I also think that, in addition to having the previous experiences in our life, adding the pandemic to the tab, just kind of like, swirl things around a little bit, and everybody's out here trying to balance and, make it as best as they possibly can. And what falls on my heart is, we as adults, we are on our journey to learn how to better communicate and navigate through. I think about the youth in our community, as well, and um, the possible limitations that there, could be, and them being able to be as free as we advocate for, for adults and things like that. Have you, noticed or had the opportunity to, to talk to any youth and get any feedback from them on their thoughts and feelings?
So a little bit, with some of the work that I do with the Mental Health Council, actually youth is our next population that we're planning on kind of targeting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely are looking to tap into them and see, some of the challenges that they are facing. I will
Yeah.
tell you, I volunteer at Bond Elementary School, and this school year I have incorporated a representative from the Cooperative Extension Office. Her name is
Okay.
Young, and she does yoga for kids. And so 15 to 20 minutes of my hour of time, she comes in and has the children doing breathing exercises and affirmations and yoga poses, and they have really gotten into it. And so
Yeah.
I just watching them, and this is going to be like a 8 week, not all consecutive 8 weeks, but 8 weeks total, um, of these types of sessions. So I really am curious to, see the kind of transformation in them. So we're talking like well, 6, 7, and 8 year olds.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so super surprised at what they're retaining as it relates to that. And if they could, hold on to like those type of practices, I think
Mm-hmm.
be much better for them as they grow and mature and just try to make it through this life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm always talking about is coping skills and
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
the necessity of them. And so, we may get in a rut with what we already have, but there's like a sheet that I often refer to, which is a 99 coping skills. So just in case you know, run out of ideas, here are a few more. So,
Yeah.
you know, utilize these things to help not only maybe take your mind off of a stressful thought or situation, but also just to expand you. You know, there may be something on that list that opens up something else inside of you that was dormant or that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
So always encouraging, trying new things, exploring new activities because you just never know what might come from that.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Can you tell us more about Habitat, your role there?
Yes, so this is a new position, Habitat, the Big Man Habitat for Humanity here in Tallahassee. They applied for a grant with Habitat International, and there
Hmm.
are 14 affiliates total across the United States that have this designation. They were awarded this grant. And so it's a 3-year program, but 2-year funded. And the ABH program managers or designated personnel primarily are focusing on strategic planning, storytelling, advancing Black home ownership, which in my case will be, trying to double our production. That's my personal goal
Okay.
for us here in Tallahassee, and then also relationship building. And so some of that work includes like generational wealth building and housing preservation and as well as financial literacy and capabilities. So it's not just housing, but it's a lifelong um, relationship, but also just building people's skills and knowledge around what housing is and how
Mhm.
important it can be for families, Black families, um, you know, in terms of wealth building and leaving something, a legacy, if you will, for
Right.
generations to come. So it's much more than just housing. I'll just say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think that's, I think all of those aspects are huge components to building generational wealth. I think
Mhm.
people, when they think about generational wealth, some tie it to like monetary, just like money,
Yeah.
abundance and income, but being able to build that foundation to leave for your grandkids and your great grandkids and things like that, like that's the wealth,
Yeah.
and then the education aspect
Mhm.
of that, because when you're taught, then they can go on and they can teach as well. And I don't know the numbers or the statistics on it, but within our community, I think that there is a huge lack of knowledge when it comes,
Mhm.
and and that's a huge area of wellness that needs to be, tapped into. I really hope that I believe you're going to meet your goal. So I'm not going to hope it. I
Absolutely.
know that you're going to meet your goal. I'm going to be cheering you on like, go Nicole, go Nicole.
I appreciate that. And we
These are such great initiatives that you're doing because, like you said, you're like I'm been looking at your background and how it's saying like the community through conversation and how we were just talking about how isolated we are, especially because of COVID. We don't know what community looks like anymore, especially since like we've been systematically broken apart when it
right.
comes to our communities. So I think what you're doing is phenomenal because
Oh,
even just as simple as sitting down and having lunch, a lot of times we don't realize how much we're asking for help and for someone to reach out and just kind of guide us when we're with our friends or even if we're like at a salon or a barber shop and that's when we're releasing everything, but the people that we're releasing to aren't prepared for what it is that we're asking for. So something, I'm not saying that what you're doing is simple, but something as simple as being able to sit down, have lunch and have a conversation or just watching someone else have a conversation about something you've been holding on to, but you
Yeah.
didn't know who to release it to. I think this is great because that is what's going to show people what it is to ask for help, how to find community, what kind of community they want, because community is defined differently by everyone. So I just want to like, give you your flowers because I mean, I know this is my first time meeting you, but this is some great stuff that you're doing. And I really hope that, it all works out well because this is amazing. I'm loving what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And so I want to just piggyback because you mentioned something that in terms of the people who we trust with our business,
Hmm.
right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
beauty shop owners, hairdressers, our barbers, our coaches, our trainers, our teachers, our mentors,
Hmm.
Right.
techs, all of those folks, right? And so I call them shade tree clinicians, right? And
I
so
love
it's
that.
not something that they necessarily want, but
Hmm.
while we are at the shampoo bowl, we are
Yeah.
telling Lisa, Linda, Keisha, whoever, all the everything
Right.
that's going on in our lives. So imagine they got 25 customers that's telling them
Hmm.
all they business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so some of the programming that we have done with the Mental Health Council is around these particular people. So we've done programming specifically for Black men who deal with Black men and boys. We've
Hmm.
done programming. In fact, we have something coming up in November. We call it the Black Women's Wellness Experience. And so we're going to have childcare for those attendees. We will provide dinner. We will have QPR training, which is a suicide prevention training, and they'll get a certificate for sitting through that. We'll have a panel discussion. We'll have chair massages, and we are going to just love on these women and then give them resources, counselors, a list of counselors that they can refer to their clientele because
Hmm.
they know when, you know, Shay is off today. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like she came in the shop and she not her normal self. And while I want to hold space for her and I can listen to what she has to say, I am not a licensed practitioner,
Right.
not a licensed social worker, psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor. I am not. And
Yeah.
so while I care for her, I love her, it's more than I can handle. So here is a list of folks in the community that can help you.
Hmm.
So that's part of the work of the council as well.
Yeah. Honoring those boundaries
So
for
Hmm.
when you
yourself,
said that,
others. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's where that self-awareness comes in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And supporting these women and men who are on the front line, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Who
Yeah.
are in touch with our community every day. They see
Hmm.
these folks monthly, bi-weekly, weekly,
Hmm. And
and so
and we grow up with some of them. Like my
Yeah.
Miami hairstylist, till this day, if I go home, she's the only person who's touching my hair. She's been doing my hair since I was like 3.
right.
So it's just like knowing that these people are part of your community. They
Yes.
just like we just need to make sure that they have the support that they need because you're gonna keep asking them for support. Like no one's gonna ever stop venting to their hairstylist. That's just part of our culture at this point. So let's make sure that our hairstylists are equipped to deal with that and they know how to identify these issues and that they're okay because they have families and issues and stuff as well. Like who are they going to talk about it? Because if they're a hairstylist, they know how to do their hair. Who's their release?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree. I
Yeah.
do think that and I've often said that in the Black community, um therapy doesn't look like therapy. It does
Hmm.
look like us going to our beauticians and our barbershop. And so trying to um encourage and say like, you need to go to a therapist, and then, it's four white walls and, all
Hmm.
like we gotta think outside the box and present areas that look more organic, more holistic, where it feels more comforting. It doesn't feel like the doctor's
Yeah.
office, to where they can be open to like building rapport and actually having those conversations, and then you having conversations with them at lunchtime, or even having conversations at a park in nature, things like
Hmm.
that. It just it's so freeing, you know. It's an amazing thing. And I believe you sent me the flyer for the event. Is that correct? The for November?
So it's coming up. We got like a couple of more tweaks we need to make to it,
Okay.
but we'll send it to you for
Okay,
sure.
okay. It may have been something else. So what would you say is the most fulfilling thing about your, I wouldn't say role, I'll say roles.
Ooh. So I strongly believe that we are here to love and serve. And I feel like we all have, well, not feel like, I believe, I know we all have gifts and talents that the world is waiting on, and we should not be sitting on them, but we need to be
Mhm.
sharing them with the world. So I think probably I consider myself to be a connector. And
Mm.
so the most fulfilling thing for me is when I'm able to connect someone. So when someone watches the live shows Mindset Monday or Wellness Wednesday and they message me and say, or on the show, they'll in the comments say, I love my Black counselor and I got them from watching Conversations with Nicole. Like
Mm.
that's the ultimate.
Oh,
Or, I watched the Conversations with Nicole show and I saw a particular organization that I really, their what they do, their services align with me or resonated with me, and I want to donate to that particular organization. Like to me, that's like the ultimate, and that has happened. And so, yeah,
that is
connect.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
That listen, I wouldn't be able to hold myself together if I saw that. Because we get in and we're doing the things that we do, and I tell honey all the time, I'm just out here doing the Lord's work, you know.
That's
I'm
it. So
here.
much. Yes,
So then when when you see that or you receive that feedback or you meet people along the way, I'm pretty sure that that is like a very touching and moving moment to know that you've contributed to making a difference like in their journey. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's the best.
So what advice or encouragement would you give to community members that are feeling like they just, I don't want to say stuck, but they're just trying to figure out how to navigate where they are right now. Um, and this could be in the realm of mental health or generational wealth, just overall what our conversation has been. What encouragement or advice would you give to community members that are watching?
So if they are in the midst of, community and doing the thing, I would say definitely leaning into whatever it is, whatever area it is. So, just when I say lean in, like get real curious about it in terms of doing research, finding out who some of the players are and partnering. Like partnership is so, I think, important and critical. You know, we oftentimes look at one another in a more competitive way, but I think we ought to focus on collaboration instead of competition. And so I would suggest, developing partnerships and seeing how, we can focus more on our likenesses as opposed to our differences. We can appreciate our differences, but let's also celebrate the likenesses and see again how we can collaborate based on all of that.
Mm.
So I challenge myself in that way all the time. And I would say push a little bit beyond your comfort zone, right? Because we can
Yeah.
get comfortable doing a whole lot of things, but
Mm-hmm.
that mediocrity, yeah,
Hmm.
gotta be pushing for the stars. We are destined for greatness, greater works than these shall we do. So we gotta push towards that. So yeah,
I
those are a few things.
I wanted to ask, in reflection to the question that you just answered, what about for, because you have a lot of different things that you're doing and you have a little hats that you wear, you kind of have to interchange. So what advice would you give to practitioners about having that work-life balance of, providing for the community, but making sure you're still caring for yourself? Because we care so much that we forget to like pour back into us sometimes.
That is a tough one, but you got to be intentional about it. So, monthly massages, you going to your own counselor.
Hey, massage.
Yes, taking a vacation, and the vacation don't have to be anything elaborate. It could be a staycation. You could stay in town, but just not at your house, or travel 100 or 200 miles away from your house to some new place or what have you. But we have to be intentional. We have to plan that because otherwise, the time will just keep going right on by, and we will not
Mm-hmm.
have that sense of fulfillment because we'll be burned out and just overwhelmed. And so you have got to schedule it, just like you schedule those appointments that you have with your clients, or you schedule
Mhm.
some of these other things that you want to do. You got to schedule that time. You
Yeah.
got to. So that would be my advice. Make yourself a priority, and not, there's balance with that as well, because sometimes people can go overboard in that regard as well. But you got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah. And then not feeling guilty about it
Right.
as
Right.
well. Not
Yeah.
feeling guilty at all, because it's important to remember that those things are the other things, your jobs, your clients, all that, it's going to be there,
Yep.
but if you aren't taking care of you, you can't be there for them. I tell my students, all the time, every morning that you wake up, you are your first client.
Yeah.
You have to assess where you are mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of that before you can go and pour into someone else, because energy transfers, for
Yeah.
one, but we want to make sure that we are pouring in positivity and helping like uplift and encourage. So I'm definitely with you on those monthly massages.
Yes.
I was going to like start intentionally scheduling it, like putting it on as if it like I would do a doctor's appointment,
That's
right?
it. You need
Especially as
to.
women, we make sure like
Mhm.
we do it like every year, right? And then we have like our dentist appointments and all things like that need to be on the calendar with like no excuses
Yep.
at all.
Yep. You got to make it a priority. Got
Yeah. Yeah.
to.
Well, I really, really, really appreciate you holding space for us today. And we space for you.
My pleasure. This was great.
Yes, yes, yes. And so, any last words that you may have? Would you like to tell us how best we can get in contact, or anyone else can get in contact with you?
Sure, sure, sure. So, in terms of last words, I would just say, again, self-awareness is key. Self-care is also very important. Those coping skills are also very important. And then also being kind and patient with yourself, because
Mhm.
it took you this long to be this way. And so with many of us, there's a lot of deprogramming and reprogramming that has to take place before we are able to really kind of reach our full potential, or some of those goals that we aspire to. So be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Will be some of my closing remarks. And then as it relates to connecting with me, on Facebook, I am Nicole Everett, as well as Conversations with Nicole on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as on YouTube. I encourage folks to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are live again on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for about an hour. It's interactive on Facebook and YouTube, and we have a good time. We definitely dive into some topics and get the viewers going on some of the things that we have going on. I will lastly share that I do have events that I am doing under conversations with Nicole, and I think what you were speaking of earlier is an event that I have coming up on October 22nd, which is I'm calling it More Than a Conversation Women's Wellness Experience, which will feature.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And so this is a paid event, but it's going to be at the Social Vegan here in Tallahassee and Frenchtown. And it will feature affirmations and breathing. We will have a sexologist who will talk about our feminine sexual health, as well as a couple of designers who make fashions, who will feature some of their fashions and tell us a little bit about themselves, a herb and spice specialist who will
Ooh,
tell us about some herbs and spices that are good for our feminine health. And
okay.
then we will also have who else am I forgetting? Oh, Dr. Janelle Nicole. She has a therapeutic fabric and canvas um activity that we will be doing. So it's going to be full of activities. Again, that's on October 22nd, which is a Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Social Vegan. There'll be food, there'll be drink specials for sale, but the food is included. And you will also get a 10-minute chair massage with your ticket. So it's on Eventbrite, and and you can also find it on those social media platforms that I just told you about. So I encourage the ladies to come for Self-Care Sunday, More Than a Conversation Women's Wellness Experience.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be there.
Writing in my journal right now.
I love it. Well, I again want to just thank you, Rolanda and Miss Honey, for holding space for me today and for this great conversation. I love talking and interacting with folks. And so, I think we need more of these types of platforms. So I strongly encourage it. I'm glad to see you out here doing your thing. So just keep right on rising and shining and doing this great work.
Thank you so much. Well, that will conclude our episode of the Wellness Social Worker Untangled. See you all soon.
Hi.